The biggest construction failures in the world. Structural failures can happen for many reasons, but the results are often devastating. Ambition often outstrips reason when it comes to building. After all, who can resist adding their mark to the landscape of any city or countryside? Trying to achieve such a feat often leads to lasting glory, but it can just as often lead to truly disastrous blunders. Any number of factors might cause engineering to go awry. It's happened for thousands of years and continues to happen to this day. But sometimes the main factor is plain negligence or thinking about form over function in every area. Here are the 5 biggest construction failures in the world. Number 5. The Sampung department store, Seoul, South Korea, 1995. The Sampung department store in Seoul was not always the building the construction company intended. Like the time constraints in the U.S. during the Hyatt Regency hotel collapse, South Korean construction companies were pressured to complete projects quickly and efficiently. This was partly due to the ruling of the South Korean government not allowing overseas construction companies to take on projects in the country, and partly due to trying to cash in on the construction boom that coincided with the 1998 Seoul Olympics. The Sampung department store was initially intended to be a 4-story residential building, but when construction started in 1987, future chairman of the Sampung construction division, Lee Jun, made a last-minute decision to change the blueprints to accommodate for a large department store, a decision that would prove disastrous. Structural issues are again to blame here, but these issues would not have occurred if the building had been constructed according to its original plans. The problem with turning the residential building into a department store is that several structural columns were removed to make space for the escalators that are commonplace in buildings of similar purpose. But this was just one of the many structural problems that the building suffered, even in its foundations. The building was constructed using flat slabs of concrete with no structural framing or crossbeams, meaning there was no way to safely distribute weight evenly across the floors of the building. The original blueprints created by Woosung Construction Company called for supports in the building to be at least 31 inches thick to ensure the building would stand safely. But after this suggestion was made, Jun decided to fire the company, and it was decided that Jun's own construction company would take on the job instead. Jun ordered for the columns to be reduced in thickness and spaced further apart to maximize retail space. Another careless decision that further meant that all building floors could not hold the weight of not only the people in the building, but also the floors above it. More poorly thought out decisions followed, including 45-ton air conditioning units that put the design limit of the building over by 4 times, and 5th floor extension that was against zoning regulations. The Sampung department store was officially open to the public on July 7, 1990, attracting around 40,000 people a day. The combination of the amount of people visiting the building every day and the building's countless structural issues led to the collapse of the building on June 29, 1995. Cracks were starting to show in the ceiling of the 5th floor in April of that same year due to dragging incredibly heavy air conditioning units across the delicate roof of the building, and the vibrations made by these units caused these cracks to widen at an alarming rate. These cracks increased over the coming months, but Jun and the management of the store did little more than close parts of the top floor off to customers. The building was not closed down, and evacuation orders were not followed until 5 minutes before the building collapsed, but by that time it was too late. The dangerous actions carried out by Jun and the construction team resulted in a disaster that's been named one of the biggest non-deliberate building collapses of all time. Lee Jun was put on trial, charged with criminal negligence, and sentenced to 10.5 years in prison. Number 4. Hyatt Regency Hotel, Kansas, United States, 1981. Construction on the grandiose 40-story Hyatt Regency Hotel began in 1978, a project that was described as fast-tracked due to the financial climate at the time, putting pressure on construction companies to win contracts and execute projects quickly and efficiently. The project suffered from major issues early on, including the collapse of a large roof section, a foreshadowing that went unnoticed. The hotel officially opened in 1980, with many admiring its sleek and modern design and architecture. One of its defining features was the hotel's lobby, especially the steel, glass, and concrete walkways, 2 of which were directly on top of each other, connected several floors of the hotel. However, these walkways would prove to be the construction's downfall, literally. On the evening of July 17, 1981, many people were gathered in the hotel's lobby and packed onto onto these walkways for an event that was taking place. Because of this, guests on the 4th floor walkway started to hear popping noises before the walkway fell several inches, paused for a few moments, then continued to fall to the lobby floor, taking the 2nd floor walkway down with it. The cause of the collapse was a result of a change in the design of the walkways during the project's construction phase. In the original design, both the 2nd and 4th floor walkways had their own support systems, only needing to support their own weight. This would have been effective, but the design was changed so that the 4th floor walkway would be responsible for holding the weight of both, which it was clearly unable to do. An investigation into the incident concluded that this issue would have been easily recognized if the proper checks had been performed before construction began, but due to severe miscommunication between project managers and manufacturers, these checks were not carried out. Number 3. Versailles Wedding Hall, Jerusalem, Israel, 2001. When Kieran and Asaf Daror planned their special day, this would have been the last thing they expected to happen when a large portion of the 3rd story of the Versailles Wedding Hall collapsed. The culprit of this collapse was identified by wedding guests moments before the incident. They noticed a significant sagging in the floor of the 3rd story before it crumbled and fell to the ground. The wedding celebrations took place solely on the 3rd floor with 700 guests in attendance. So clearly, the floor could not handle that many people at once. If you're thinking it's not every day a floor sags and collapses, that's because the construction method used to develop this particular building proved to be so dangerous, the practice was banned. The PAL-CAL method of construction was based on the process of creating lightweight floors and ceilings from metal plates and cement, an extremely cheap option that proved popular in the 1980s. This was not the only cause of the collapse. However, when the building was designed, only one side was designed to accommodate a 3rd story. However, a last-minute design change resulted in both sides of the building having a 3rd story. As well as this, the building owners decided to remove the partitions, resulting in an even weaker structure and the subsequent floor sagging. A major oversight on behalf of the owners, referring to the sagging floor as a cosmetic issue, allowed Kieran and Asaf's wedding to go ahead just weeks later, resulting in the collapse. The PAL-CAL construction method inventor Eli Ron was arrested and charged with manslaughter in August 2002 because he sold the defective materials to the construction company that built the wedding hall. Number 2. Vdara Hotel and Spa, Las Vegas, United States, 2009. One of the few structures in this video that is still standing, the Vdara Hotel and Spa in Las Vegas, presented its own unique set of problems based on the design of the exterior of the building. In 2010, a whole year after the hotel was built, it was discovered that the combination of the building's reflective surface and curved design acted as a collective mirror that reflected the sun's rays into one beam of intense light and heat. Unfortunately for guests, that one beam happens to present itself in the middle of the pool deck of the hotel. Often referred to as a death ray by everyone from hotel staff to news outlets, this issue has caused some issues that wouldn't occur in a stay at a typical hotel. Guests relaxing by the pool would be regularly singed by this ray of intense heat, with one guest even reporting that it melted a plastic bag he had with him. The hotel management has taken as many steps as possible to prevent more issues caused by the design of the building. While no solution will be 100% effective due to the constant movement of the sun, according to the time of day as well as the changing of seasons, management has taken it upon themselves to install large umbrellas to try to deflect the rays directly off of people, as well as covering the glass with a non-reflective film. Strangely, the architect behind the building, Raphael Vinoli, has a history of designing buildings with this particular issue. The walkie-talkie skyscraper in London, also designed by Vinoli, is now commonly and comically referred to as the Walkie Scorchy and Fry Scraper, after reports that the building reflected light so intensely that it would melt cars and people could fry eggs in its path. And finally, number 1, King's Cross Escalator, London, United Kingdom, 1987. King's Cross Station is one of the major interchanges in the London Underground system, serving 6 out of 11 lines currently in operation on the Underground. As many as 150,000 people pass through the station every day, which is why the fire that occurred on the Piccadilly Line escalator on November 18, 1987, was a dark day for the City of London. The fire occurred around 7:30 p.m. on the evening evening of the 18th at the tail end of rush hour. Several passengers reported a fire underneath the ascending escalator connecting the Piccadilly line platform to street level. Due to the placement of the fire, it could not be put out using standard fire extinguishers, and staff at the station were not trained on how to use the more advanced equipment available to them at that time. A few minutes after the fire started, firefighters arrived to the blaze that was about as big as a cardboard box, and they thought they could be quickly extinguished with a water jet. However, a combination of physics and bad luck meant the situation was about to get worse. At 7:42 p.m., less than 15 minutes after the small fire started, the entire escalator was up in flames, further fueled by the enclosed space and the burning of around 20 layers of paint that was topped up during the refurbishment of the escalator tunnel. As the situation progressed, around 3 minutes later, the fire would escalate again in a way no one had ever seen before. At 7:45 p.m., the flames shot up the escalator and into the ticket hall, filling it with a blistering heat and toxic smoke. This unexpected turn of events resulted from a phenomenon known as the trench effect. When any fire occurs on or beside an inclining surface, this incline causes any material above the initial fire to heat up. This chain reaction causes the gases that form to auto-ignite, resulting in rapid escalation of the fire. The investigation into this case was unlike others in this video due to the complicated physics of the incident. It was established relatively quickly that the initial ignition was started by a lit match discarded on the escalator, but it was not clear if the fire was started intentionally and how the fire escalated as quickly as it did. It was later established that the match was discarded after a cigarette was lit on the escalator. Even though smoking on the London Underground was banned in 1984, people still choose to flaunt the rules and light their cigarettes on the escalator as they approach the exit. However, even the grease buildup under the escalator would not have been enough to create a fire of that size and intensity. Upon further inspection, debris under the escalator's tracks was found to be easily ignitable when computer-simulated tests were conducted. Until the fire, escalators were made with a combination of wood and metal, and it's pretty well known that the wood is flammable, so in the wake of the incident, work was carried out to make the escalators entirely metal. However, even after this terrible incident, the last wooden escalator was not replaced until 2013 in Greenford Station in Greater London. And there you have it. That's it from us today. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.